Hey everybody, you're listening to Big Blend Radio with Nancy Reed and Lisa Smith. We're the mother-daughter team and publishers of BigBlendMagazines.com, which includes GardenGossipMagazine.com. And our next guest, Don Rosenberg, he is no stranger to garden gossip. In fact, he's got some good gossip today for sure. He's a master gardener. He's also the author of No Green Thumb Required, Organic Family Gardening Made Easy, and it really goes through the whole process of how you and your family can grow your own organic vegetable garden. A lot of times we think, well, yeah, okay, so we're going to have to till up the whole yard and do all that stuff, and, we're going to have to weed and hoe and do all that stuff. But it's like this whole bunch of work. So it automatically we start to go, oh, how do we do this? How do we do this? But his book teaches you, but even better, he's got garden gossip that's going to make it even easier. Don's book is available on Amazon if you go to Kindle. You know, if you got one of those great gadgets, you can get it there, or you can go to instantorganicgarden.com. You can also check out his articles and listen to his past interviews if you go to GardenGossipMagazine.com. So really good to have Don back on the show. How are you, Don?
I'm great. How are you all doing?
We're being naughty today. It's Friday, and we're feeling it. And you know what? I'm thinking you might as well go out and plant something. How do you feel about it?
Well, it's a little late to plant in the Carolinas, but certainly out where it's warm, down south or on the coasts, on the West Coast, you can plant pretty much any time of the year, and that's pretty exciting. It's pretty neat to be able to garden any time.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and you want to harvest. Actually, that's the best part, is harvesting, right?
Well, that's true. Now you can plant a garden earlier and then be harvesting it now, but it's just hard to get seeds to start in really, really cold soil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you're late, what would you do?
Well, there's two things. One is just wait till next year and go online and look through all the seed catalogs and figure out what you want to grow and what you're going to put in your garden, because if you've got a small garden, your space is at a premium, so you've got to really pick wisely, pick just the right crops to grow.
Don, do you ever start your seeds inside?
Well, as you all know, I am not only the instant organic gardener, I'm also the lazy gardener. And so what I have found over the years is that plants grow better when their seeds are planted outdoors where they're going to grow up, as opposed to going through all the trouble of getting the little peat pots and the grow lights and the warming mats and you grow them and it's such a pain, and then you got to take them outside and acclimate them to the the harsh outdoor temperatures. When you grow them outside, just plant them at the right time, then they grow up healthy. And there are only 3 crops that I buy as transplants, and that's in the summer. That's tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants, because I don't need a package of 100 seeds. I only want one of each variety of tomato and one or two of each variety of pepper.
I know last month you were talking on the show about micro-farming and growing your own food, and then really at the end of the day, the goal is that the farmers do the big pumpkins, or if you have your own huge garden, then let the pumpkins sprawl out or something like that. But at the end of the day, most people are really, we don't have huge lots anymore. Sometimes we're, families are in the same house or in a community, even apartment complexes, things like that. So we have to really look about spaces. It's like time. Time, you can't put a value on time. It's so important, and space is the same thing. So you want to grow a little bit of what your family wants. And what
you want to grow, the benefit of growing your own produce is not for canning it. If you're canning something, you're basically boiling it for an hour. And I tell people that if you're going to take perfectly good tomatoes and boil them for an hour and then can them, that's okay, and they'll probably taste a little bit better, but I'll let Mr. Del Monte grow those for me. What I'm looking for, and the real benefit of your having a garden in your backyard, is eating your produce fresh. And so there's nothing better than just walking out to the backyard, picking just what you need for dinner, and then washing it off and eating it. And so instead of something that's 5 to 10 days old that you get from the store, the farmer's market, or the organic food store, you're getting something that's 5 to 10 minutes old from your own backyard, and it's tastier, it's healthier, you get all the nutrients. I've told you all that green beans lose 15% of their nutritional value every day after they're picked. So eat them that day, and you get the max.
Well, I look at it this way. Some farmers markets that aren't certified, you can't even tell where they come from. So we're getting to this point of not knowing. I would rather turn around and know, hey, I grew this, get my kids and family involved in it, and go, we grew that.
Yeah, the point about time is really, really important. And, I'm advocating that people grow a vegetable garden, but if they don't have the time to be out on their hands and knees pulling weeds, or if they don't have the space, if they don't have 400 square feet in their backyard, then they're just not going to do it. And that's what excites me so much about what I do, is that I have found a new approach that teaches people how to have a garden in their backyard that doesn't take a lot of space, but it's extremely productive. But you also don't have to spend be on your hands and knees for an hour a day pulling out weeds. And watering, it's a lot easier to water a 50-square-foot garden than it is to water a 400-square-foot garden. So if you can make it easy for people to do the right thing, then they will beat a path to your door.
So now, we got to get to the garden gossip part, because I know you talked a little bit about this on our last show, and I'm super, super stoked and happy. This is the deal. I know when we talk, you always talk about raised beds. You've been talking about that for a number of years on our show, and you've talked about wood being the raised bed, and people can, do it themselves. You teach them also through your company, but at the same time, you've now found a product, and Nancy and I have tried a number of products, but you have found something. And also, you've got a whole garden program going on right now. And and I want to tell everybody, go to your website, instantorganicgarden.com, because this is too cool. Nancy and I are jumping for joy on this, because you are really, truly giving people, here's how to do it, no matter what level of gardener you are. And here's your bed, and it can come in a bag in your mailbox, pretty much.
Well, yeah, it really is exciting, and you all have been such a huge supporter of what I do, because, obviously this is the right thing to do, grow your own produce. The problem has been that the cedar beds are pretty good. They're great, actually, but they're a little bit hard to put together, and people don't like all this, assembling and so on. So it's a little teeny bit intimidating. And so what I was doing was, my business was basically anywhere that I had affiliates, which was Charlotte, North Carolina, and San Diego. And I'm still adding other affiliates, which is great. So those people will drive out to your house, and they will build the garden for you. They'll put in the soil, they'll help you with your garden plan and so on. So you've got your own personal trainer for your spinach and your squash in your local town. The problem has been, if you live in Topeka or Tucson, then you're pretty much on your own. And so what I've done is I have set up all the services that I do for a local client, which is, all this advice and consultation. I help people decide where to put the garden, what's your sunlight. I do a garden plan that shows them what, where, and when to plant each vegetable, so you don't get too much or too little. I'll give them support for the next 12 months. And so what I've done is I have come across these new gardens. They're fabric gardens. So it's so if you can imagine sort of a black fabric, sort of like a burlap bag, but much stronger and nicer looking and so on. And it's been constructed in a way that when you fill it properly with the right soil, it stands up, and you've got a garden. And they're 11.5 inches tall, which is the perfect height. And they're all these different sizes: 2x2, 3x3, 4x4 squares, 2x4, 3x6, 4x8 rectangles, and all you have to do is have a level surface. And the other cool thing about this, you can't really put a cedar garden on a deck or a patio. It just doesn't work. But these you can. We have a little drainage material that we put underneath them so that they'll drain properly without ruining the deck. And so now I can talk to people that have an apartment, they live in a condo, all they have is a deck or a driveway that they can put a garden on. And now I can take care of anybody. You just need 6 hours of sun, and I'll ship you the bed. It's comes in a little bag, and you unfold it and fill it with soil. I'll give you soil recipes so you'll have perfect soil. You'll add organic fertilizers to it, and all of a sudden you're on your journey to being a gardener, and you can be anywhere in the country and be a successful gardener now. It's very exciting.
Well, I think what's amazing is you're talking about it's a fabric bag, and Nancy and I have out here in Arizona, we've tried some different products, and even when we were in the high desert and other areas. I mean, Nancy's not been gardening
organic
for
vegetables
gazillions of
when
years.
Lisa was a little baby. I had a Troy-built hand tractor.
Right.
That I use. I've been gardening for years, and I used to take a little magazine called Organic Gardening when
That's
it was
great
hard work.
publication.
Now, to see that you can like use a raised bed or get a this is so much easier.
Even if the soil is really good soil, I don't want to garden in that soil because remember, I'm the lazy gardener. I don't want to be digging up weeds, and we've talked for years that there are weeds that are dormant in your soil, even if it's good soil. And all it needs is exposure to sunlight. So when you till good soil and you try to plant, vegetable seeds in it, you're also waking up all the weed seeds. So when you start a new garden with new soil, a potting mix or some sort of compost and sand mixture, something like that, and you put organic fertilizers in it, you're starting with perfect soil, but all of those are weedless. So if you can start with weedless soil, then all of a sudden the workload, 2/3 of the work of the garden is pulling up the weeds that you woke up. So I don't care whether your soil is poisoned or not. Even if it's great soil, if you till it, you're going to get weeds.
That's exactly
why weed if you don't have to?
In this day and age now, to get kids, families involved, I mean, it's really a difficult thing because people's time is short. And then at the end of the day, you actually, I think for families to get their kids outside, and I'm talking especially in the city areas, I think when we're in the rural areas, it's fun. It's just kind of like we're used to that, and now we're going to be naughty in some other way. But in the urban communities, it's like, okay, what, you're going to take me away from my game or my phone thing or whatever, my iPad and all that good stuff. They're all good tools in our society, so I'm not knocking them. But the fact is, how do you get a kid to knock those down and go outside and weed? It ain't going to happen. It is just not going to happen.
Weeding is no fun for a kid, but certainly watering the garden, planting the seeds,
and harvesting
picking seeds originally. On my website, I have heirloom seeds that are, obviously not non-GMO seeds, but I have heirloom seeds that I've selected that are the best. I deal with seedsavers.org, and they collect these seeds not only from across the country, but all over the world, and they're interesting seeds. They're purple carrots or red and white striped beets and so on. And so your kids get to pick out the vegetables, they get to plant the seeds, they get to water them, and then they get to harvest them, learn how to cook them, they get to eat them. That's really completing the cycle. And it's fun to harvest something, to pull up sweet potatoes and find out what's under the ground, or pull up carrots and find them with 2 or 3 legs and so on. So that's the fun part about gardening. And if it's not fun, again, people won't do it.
Well, with your new fabric beds, because this is cool, because when we did some bed things out here, which were not, the cedar, and they were material, but everything sweated because we have monsoon seasons here. And then if people are in communities where everything's walled in, like the tract housing districts and things like that, which happens across the country, you don't have the ventilation. And we've talked about that on the show where Nancy and I were like, oh, suddenly we have aphids in Tucson? Are you kidding me? So with the fabric, with things being able to breathe, and especially here in the heat zones, does this help cool the roots down a little bit?
Oh, yeah, this is the other part that I want to talk about because, fabric gardens are one thing, but wooden gardens or pots or something, those are cool and they're fine and they'll work well, but there's a lot of advantages to the fabric gardens, and that's what's got me so excited because your plants are going to grow healthier and faster. They're going to be more productive, and there's a couple reasons, and it's all because of the fabric. The first one is, plants are like people. They need air and water. And so in a raised bed, if your soil gets a little compacted, you're not going to get a lot of air down to the roots. Also, the water isn't going to percolate through as well. And so fabric gardens allow air not only to come in from the top, which they would in a regular garden, but they're also able to come in from the sides, and also if it's, on a deck or something, from the bottom. And what that does, it gets more oxygen to the roots, and that makes them grow better. The other thing is that the air reaching the roots, when a plant is growing in a pot and it gets to the edge of the pot, the roots start to curl around, and it's not productive for the plant just to have a bunch of roots that aren't doing anything, and diseases can start there, and it's just a waste of energy for the plant. When a plant is growing and it senses air, which is going to be on the outside of the fabric garden, it goes right up to the edge and it says, "Ooh, there's air here. I'm not going to keep growing." It just stops. And so you'll get root growth, but it won't circle around, and that again makes it healthier. So all the roots are contributing to the productivity of the plant, not just the ones that aren't circling around. The fabric beds actually allow the plant roots to be cooler. In fact, there was like 30 degrees cooler. They've done studies on these for years, and the roots are 30 degrees cooler, in the hot summer sun than they would be in like a plastic pot or something. And then the other interesting thing is that the black fabric, the sides of the fabric, in the spring and in the fall, they actually stay warmer. And so you want your garden warmer in the spring and the fall, and that extends your growing season. And then in the summer, the extra moisture in the garden will evaporate just a little bit, and it cools the soil. And so you get perfect drainage and cool soil, extra air, all the water you need reaching the plant. It's just a wonderful combination.
You know what it is? It's like that's why worms are good for the soil, because they aerate the soil. And when human beings start messing with it and going, "Hey, let's just pack it into this pot," and we pack it tight, we forget that aeration from what it's supposed to be. So I feel like the fabric is almost like acting like the earthworms to give it that air, because that's what the earthworms do.
Well, actually, that's a really cool point. I think it would, give a lot more air to the plant than earthworms. But, earthworms are really, if you have earthworms in your garden, you're doing something right.
I think this is exciting. I do want to say, okay, so I was looking on your website today, instantorganicgarden.com, everybody. You're creating Facebook groups. You've got different levels, so people. You basically are holding everyone's hand going through this process so people can really grow their own food.
I had somebody tell me early on when I first started this, they said, "Don, why don't you just grow a 50,000 square foot farm and sell the produce? Wouldn't that be better?"
No.
And I said, I would much rather have 1,000 50 square foot gardens in backyards all over my area, and that would be 2.5 thousand children who are going to grow up with a garden in their backyard.
You're teaching the man how to fish. Yeah.
Exactly. And but interestingly enough, it's not only that. When these kids grow up, they'll now see that a garden is easy. They're going to start their own garden. So instead of just feeding your children until they're 18 and hopefully leave the house, you're going to be feeding their children and their children's children for generations, because it's now, it's easy to have a garden. You don't have to go through all that work. Just build a raised bed and use new soil and organic fertilizers, and you can have all the produce you want. And now with the fabric gardens, I can help people not only in Charlotte and San Diego, but I can help people all over the country. And that's truly exciting for me. So I may have a million raised bed gardens, not 1,000. And that is very exciting.
I want to see schools, I want to see families, I want to see everyone taking that up and doing it.
The other cool thing about this is cedar is cool, but it's expensive, and it's expensive to ship. And so these fabric gardens are much, much less expensive than the cedar gardens. So that means that people that aren't as well off can go ahead and have a garden. And the schools that never have any money, they can order fabric gardens and use them. And so all of a sudden this is accessible to a lot more people.
But I do want to know how much it costs. Like, seriously, I know. You're talking about that, but what would it cost for someone? Like, Nancy and I want to go, okay, we want our garden now. How much is it going to cost just for a normal 10 by 10 bed or something like that?
Well, I never go wider than 3 feet. So a 3 by 3 square is $50, and a 3 by 6 rectangle is going to be $90.
Okay.
For $90, you can, and in 3 by, maybe 2 of those beds, which would be maybe $180, you could have enough produce to feed a family of 4 for the next 15, 20 years, and that's really exciting.
And what about the soil? I mean, because that's going to be the only cost on top of that. It's going to be the soil, and the soil is cheap if you get the right. I mean, it really will regenerate itself, and you put the organic fertilizer, you're done.
Well, that's true. Now, you will spend some money on the soil, but that's your best money. If you go cheap on the soil, your produce will be insufficient for years and years and years. And so when somebody buys a garden from me, I give them soil recipes depending on what part of the country they're in and how many gardens they're going to have. If you can, you really have to have good soil, but you might spend, again, a 3 by 6 bed, which would really feed 2 adults quite nicely. Again, that might be $90. The soil for that might be another $50. And you're done. I mean, you're talking, putting in a garden used to be a weekend project. Now it's going to be, an hour to find a spot, level it out, unfold the fabric bed, fill it up the proper way with the soil, mix in the fertilizer, and all of a sudden you're ready to garden. So you could be up and running with one of these gardens in an hour and a half.
Can I just say, dude? So cool.
Just to put the seed in the soil outside where it's supposed to grow
is the best. Just do it.
Yeah.
And Dawn, I think you have I'm super, super happy because I think you've given everybody, and I know this is a product, and I don't normally get really excited about a product on our show because, but this to me is a solution. It's not a product. It's a solution for people to be able to start growing their own food. Rock on, empower to you, dude.
I love it.
Everybody, again, instantorganicgarden.com. Go check it out. And listen, if you're going to get that, you're going to get his book too. He's got a lot of great tools to help you. And again, like he was saying about seedsavers.org, you're talking about heirloom seeds. That's also keeping part of, hey, let's not all eat the same carrot that has been reproduced to death, Let's have purple carrots. Let's eat all those fancy things. You watch it on Iron Chef and Top Chef, Chopped, all those great shows on TV. You want to eat that? Grow it yourself. Go through Seed Savers because that's what they're cooking, right, Don?
Oh, yeah, they're using all those heirloom seeds. And again, on my website, I've got a really nice little reasonable selection. So instead of having to agonize over 15 different varieties of beans, I have the 5 or the 6 most productive varieties already on the website. So that's pretty exciting too. So I can sell you your seeds, I can sell you your garden, I can give you a recipe for your soil, I can tell you what fertilizer to use, and then I can hold your hand through the whole process.
All this from the lazy gardener.
I know.
Where to put it, what to plant, when to plant. I'm even going to be doing a newsletter that's going to come out to people to tell them, okay, you're in this zone, it's time for you to plant your spring seeds, and you're in this zone, it's time for you to start pruning your tomatoes. So it really is going to be, I'm going to really be able to hold people's hands.
Everybody, again, Don's company is Instant Organic Gardening. Go check it out, and you can get his book there. It's Fabric Garden Beds. Go to instantorganicgarden.com. His book is No Green Thumb Required, Organic Family Gardening Made Easy. It's on Kindle on Amazon, and, of course, you can get it on his website as well. And if you go to gardengossipmagazine.com, you can get all kinds of great articles he's written.
All right, take care.
Listen to his past interviews where we tell him he's a lazy gardener. So thanks so much, Don.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to talk to you ladies.
Take care. Thanksgiving.